you know, sometimes we run into those problems. This other sheet I'm giving you is just an exhibit worksheet that we fill out that just helps the office to know how many exhibits there were, who are the originals going to, you know, what if there's any special instructions that we need to do. Sometimes they need to make an extra copy for somebody, or sometimes the originals will go to a different person, or the witness, instead of the attorney. So, any other questions?
I was just wondering, I was looking at the deposition that you have,
Uh-huh.
and in the back it says that there's a word index. Is
Uh-huh.
that common?
Yes, and attorneys love that also, because they can look, if they don't remember whereabouts this certain question was that they asked, can go to that index and find that keyword and then go straight to it. So attorneys really, and that's pretty common. A lot of people use that.
How do you put that together? I'm just curious.
No, that's fine. It's a software program that the office does, and it just automatically does it for you. So it's not something you have to do every single one. Yes, ma'am.
On this deposition that you showed us as an example, on the word list, across the header, it says index $10 days. What does that mean?
And say it again.
Index
Uh-huh.
$10 days.
Let me look at it. It's probably that word.
Right here.
Oh, this is just saying where it starts on this page, the first word that's on here, and then the last.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's like in between.
Okay, oh, like the dictionary
Yes.
would. Yes,
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes.
As far as the exhibits, do you keep them at your personal residence, or do you return them to your office or for safekeeping?
Okay, and like I said, as long as they're not original, I keep them until because a lot of times, and it can be done two different ways. I personally will keep them because as I'm going through the deposition editing, I might have to refer back to them and I want them right there. There are certain, like the one case that I'm working on, it's a huge case. It's an oil and gas case, and we're up to, I think, 217 exhibits now. And there's 21 attorneys. And so that case, I take them as soon as I get done with the deposition, because they are sending them out to all the attorneys immediately. And so all the attorneys will have the exhibits as soon as possible. So I take those, and then they will put them on online for me, or they'll email them to me, and then I can access them there. But it's usually easier if I just have them. So any other case, I'll keep them.
It's probably a stupid question, but-
There are no stupid questions.
What if you didn't have, say you had some shoes, for example, as
Uh-huh.
an exhibit, something like a physical object, what do you do then if you can't keep it?
There's different ways to handle that. Sometimes I've had like a tire that had blown out on a case. Well, in that sense, a lot of times the attorneys, well, I don't mean to bring that up. A lot of times attorneys will keep that themselves. And so I will write in the exhibit index, I will write maintained by Mr. So-and-so. And so if it's something physical like that, a lot of times the attorneys keep it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does your office want you to get those in quickly so they can make like PDFs of them, so they can send them off a transcript or anything? Do you do that?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, it just all depends, because they usually don't go out until the transcript goes out. So until you actually turn in the transcript, they really can't do anything with it. Other than if there's if it's a voluminous amount of exhibits, then they do want them ahead of time to give them time, so it's not the last minute when you turn in the job and it needs to go out. And at least it gives them some time to get that done, so.
I have a few more. I'm sorry.
Okay, no.
Sorry. One of my questions is about certifying the question. Do you just mark it and keep going? Because it has a form over here that I guess you make a whole separate page when you make the transcript, but do you
Yes.
just mark it? Or how do you?
So just to kind of give you all an idea how, times have changed, of course. Back in that day, Yes, it was a separate booklet where we would have to, it had a separate title page, it had a separate, basically what you do is from the beginning of the question to when he says certify that question, that's the only part you put in this booklet, because that's the only thing that's gonna be given to the judge. Now, the way we do it is we put it in our index, certified question by Mr. Smith, page, line. And then they know to just go into the regular notebook and look in there and find that part. Not anymore, not anymore, yeah, that's changed. So I do want to say, y'all are coming in at a great time, because back in the Stone Age, when I got certified, times were so different. And just to kind of give y'all an idea, and you probably remember this, David, you know, we wrote on machines that had the paper coming out, and if we had to read back, we had to read back from the paper in steno. So, you know, if you kind of had a lot of on top of each other, you know, you kind of had a hard time trying to figure it all out. But, and, you know, so that was, you know, way before, of course, these new machines came out. And so when we transcribed, when I would type out my transcripts on a typewriter. And if you had more than one copy, you'd have to do the paper and a carbon and a paper. And if you made a mistake, you had an eraser and you erased. And that's how we used to do it. And it took a little longer than normal, but you know, to see now where we're at today in technology is just amazing. So y'all are coming in at a great time. Any other questions?
How long are you required to maintain your depositions for? When you keep them digitally, how long do you typically store them for?
3 years.
3 years?
We're required to keep them for 3 years, our notes, actually. Yeah.
And then typically, I don't know if you have a percentage, but how often typically do you work with a videographer? Is that pretty standard?
You know, that's a good question. It varies. For example, the big case that I'm working on, they videotape everything. Every single deposition is videotaped. There are other attorneys I've worked with that have never videotaped. There are some attorneys that we will not mention that only videotape and don't call us. But, you know, even in that sense, they will call us later to transcribe it. So, yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, it's, I'd say it's 30% of the time. It's video.
Sorry, and then
No,
you
good.
mentioned in the book an appearance fee as opposed to an hourly rate, but if the overall cost of the transcript was more than the appearance fee, then you drop the appearance fee. Do you have an appearance fee?
You mean our hourly rate?
I said there was an appearance fee just for showing up, and then the hourly rate, and then, so in case of, let's say, they book it and they drop it, you could still, I guess, charge them?
Oh, if they cancel, yes. There's a standard appearance fee, and I want to say it's, I think, like $125. If they do not call us with more than 24 hours, you know, if it's less than 24 hours, or if we're on our way, because this happens a lot too. We get to a deposition and they say, oh my gosh, we forgot to call you and tell you it canceled, or the witness can't make it, or we settled the case. So we're like, oh, okay, sure, no problem. Well, they will get charged an appearance fee because, you know, I got ready and I was there on time, and because I was taking this job, I was not able to take another job where I could make money. So they do get charged an appearance fee, and then we get that percentage.
Another question is, it came from, if anybody's looking on the textbook, it's page 274. It's what if the ordering party changes their mind and they want to change from a certified copy to a rough draft?
Okay, they will still get a copy. That is an extra charge to do a rough draft. If I'm gonna if somebody orders a rough draft from me, it's because they want it ahead of time, and without me having that 7 to 10 day turnaround time, they want it like the next day, but just a rough. So we have to take off all the page numbers, we take off all the line numbers, we put a blurb in the beginning that says, this is a rough draft. You cannot use this in court. You cannot, there are some things that are going to be not translated correctly because it's as is, basically. So personally, I will kind of go through it before I send it to them just to make sure, proper names are okay and there's not too many untranslates. And so I'll quickly go through it, skim it. But it is not to be used in any kind of formal proceeding or anything. That's just for their own idea. If they think, you know what, there was something that I really want to work on that this witness said that, I want to use for trial and I need it now. So they'll request a rough draft, which is great for us because we charge them for the rough draft and then we'll charge them again for the copy because the copy will be the finalized product. So
Do you use that on white paper or on colored paper?
we do it on the same kind of paper. Yeah, so the same kind of paper, it just does not have any page numbers or line numbers.
And I guess the last question is, have you had any experience with, it mentions in the textbook, a pauper's affidavit?
No, we don't get involved with that at all. Yep. Anything else?
So do you use Eclipse or Case Cat?
Do I use what?
Do you use Eclipse or Case Catalyst? What
Case
software?
Catalyst. I'm on Case Catalyst, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all the, it's funny, but you learn that you really are the most important person in that room in a deposition because they have to wait till you get there. They can't go on without you. And so, you really have more power than you think you do. Especially sometimes, and you learn this throughout the time, where even to put a witness, because there are some occasions where I've had that if I'm sitting at the end of the table and the witness is to my left and the attorney that is asking the questions is to my right, that's great. However, his attorney is going to be next to him, so when his attorney is asking him questions, he's facing away from me answering the other attorney. And so when they're facing away from you, you can't really hear them. So you always try to make sure and situate them before the deposition to make sure that they're going to be in a place that if they turn their head or something, you're still going to be able to hear them. So, don't ever be afraid to have somebody move, or most of the time they'll ask me, where do you want me to sit? The attorney will ask, where do you want me, in this deposition? So, it's kind of nice being the most important person there. Any other questions? I brought y'all some goodies. So these are just some things that we also offer our clients. And so if you want to take some and pass them around. We do a lot of things for our clients. We have really great clients that actually end up being our friends. So we have a lot of friendships that we build, a lot of relationships. And so I also do sales for Kim Tyndall and Associates. And so we also are at all the judges' events, all the attorneys' events. And so you get to know these people. And that's also a fun part of the job is, your kids kind of grow up together. You get invited to each other's birthday parties. So it's nice to build those relationships and those friendships. Is there anything else? Yes.
How many other court appointing firms are there in Century? Because she's the only, this is the only.
You always
thing
think
I've heard of.
There's actually a lot. Large firms, I want to say there's maybe 5, 6 large firms. Certified federal, Hoffman
Federal.
and Associates.
Yeah, Hoffman, Federal, San Antonio.
Yeah, San Antonio Court Reporting. There's probably about 5 or 6 large firms, and then you have kind of a lot of the little, individual firms. But yeah, we like to do a lot, of advertising.
I have a question since they didn't ask.
Yeah.
As a freelance court reporter, are you considered an employee or are you considered an independent? And if you're an independent, how do you pay your taxes?
Great.
I've kind of explained that to them, but I want them to hear it from you.
Okay. Up until, I want to say maybe 5 years ago, court reporters were always considered independent contractors, regardless, no matter what. Always independent contractors. And in that sense, we had to actually pay estimated taxes. So every quarter, we would have to estimate how much we were going to make and just write a check and send it in to the IRS. And then at the end of the year, if we overpaid, well, we'd get some of that back. Of course, if we underpaid, we have to pay. But that's kind of how they handled that. Up until 5 years ago, now, we can actually be considered employees. We were never considered employees before because they didn't tell us to wear a certain uniform, although I think we do. We have to dress professionally. So they wouldn't tell us, you know, as a freelancer, they wouldn't say, oh, you have to work 9 to 5 every day. So that didn't fit with the employee standard. But now, I don't know how that the IRS has been able to now consider us either or. So, for example, I'm an employee with Kim Tyndall, so I get my taxes taken out, and I prefer that because it's much better than me having to estimate how much I'm going to make and be disciplined enough to send it in. So I like being an employee, and so that's how. But nowadays you can't. They accept the IRS accepts you being an employee. Yes.
Do you get benefits with
No,
that?
that's one of the things that, you know, kind of differs. We do not have benefits. We kind of get our insurance on our own. We see it as we can make a little more money to be able to pay for that. So that kind of takes care of it. But we do have to get our insurance on our own, retirement on our own, and have our own accounts in that sense.
So the only benefit of being an employee is if they do taxes for you?
Yes. Yeah, they'll take out your taxes and treat you in every sense of, you know, as an employee.
Is there a lot of competitive, I guess, like, if you get somebody who's new or a new court reporter and they go to a firm and you have reporters that have been there for years and years, how does that work? I mean, are you kind of like at the bottom of the totem pole until you work your way up, or how does that work?
Well, actually, the more you work, the more you meet new attorneys, and we also work on a basis of getting our own clients. So when we kind of, you know, really do great work and hit it off with a certain client, that they say, you know what, we want you to do all of our depositions. So when they'll call in, they'll just request you for all their depositions. So it's, you know, it's not even a matter of, am I going to get this job or not? You will have them all the time. So the more clients you build up, the better it is for you, because you'll be requested all the time. Now, if you're a brand new reporter, the way they would handle it is they're not going to overburden you with too many jobs. So they'll give you time to work, you know, to finish your job and complete it and turn it in, and then they'll give you another one. And so the more experience you get, the more depositions they'll give you. So a lot of times that's how it works, even with senior reporters that have been reporting a long time and don't have requests. It kind of goes by how much work they have out, how many pages they haven't turned in, but jobs they've already gotten. So the more caught up they are, then they'll give them more work.
I'm sure a new reporter would not get the case that you see you're working on, with the oil,
Right,
you know,
right.
the oil case.
right.
That could probably be really helpful.
Yes, and we're very careful with stuff like that because we know that you're a brand new reporter. In fact, I mean, you can always even go with a reporter just, you know, on your first time, or especially if you're interning. Of course, we're always, you know, we always want y'all to call us, and y'all can go with us anytime. We just get the approval from both sides, and 9 times out of 10, they always approve it. And so y'all can always just intern with us and see what it's like, and take the depositions down, even transcribe it and see, you know, how y'all did with it. But as a new reporter, yeah, we're real careful not to send you out on a medical deposition or very technical or something that's going to be 6 hours long. Yeah, we won't do that. Anything else? Yes.
Before you were considered an employee and you were trying to do your estimated taxes, did you work within accounting, or did you just kind of learn how to do that on your own?
Yeah, I pretty much worked with an accountant and based it on whatever I had done the year before. And that kind of gave me a good barometer. Yes.
I was looking in the National Court Reporters Association monthly booklet that they put out, and they had a laundry list of benefits, insurance, and all that kind of thing for members. But I wanted to know, do you have to be certified to access those benefits, or as a member, can you access some of them, like dental and vision? I mean, you know, like if you bought your own equipment for school, could you insure your school equipment through them?
That's a great question. I haven't seen that. I don't go through the national organization, so I'm not really sure, but that'd be a good question to find out.
I'm assuming that by offering insurance and that kind of thing, the vendors would really be in tune with what you really need and what you really want.
Mhm.
Because when I talked to an insurance person about insuring my equipment, he looked at me like
He didn't know what you were talking
he was from Mars or I was from Mars.
about. Uh-huh.
And when he looked at the machine, he said, oh, yeah, we can insure that. And I said, well, you know, what's the deductible, what's the indemnity and all that other stuff? He said, well, how much was it? And I told him it was basically $2,200 before taxes, and he like spazzed out. So I knew that was not the person for me
Right.
to talk to.
Right.
And I've been to a couple of conferences where they had vendors there for insurance and
Yes.
benefits like that, but.
I would think if they're offering it to members, as long as you're a member, I would think that it would be available for you. But again, I mean, that would be, you have to call them and ask them. Anything else? Yes.
What does it say? Like, my biggest fear is to be a new reporter, be a freelancer, and still not feel secure. When is it safe to buy a house, get a car, and all that stuff, when you don't know what your income is?
That's a good question. I would say you can pretty much, you'll be able to tell, you know, once you get started, and of course, there's a ramping up period, because once you first start, you're not gonna be able to take, you know, 5 jobs in a week, you know, or the 6-hour jobs, the jobs that give you, you know, have the most money coming back towards them. So I would say give yourself a good, personally, I would say 6 months to a year, probably closer to a year, to see how much you make that first year. And then you'll have so much more experience, you'll be able to even request, sometimes you can request, you know, certain jobs. You can say, you know what, if anything comes in that's got 5, 6 attorneys, I'm ready for that, I can take that, let me have that job. And so, you know, so you can actually, you'll be able to tell if you don't think that you're getting enough work and you can handle more, you can always ask for more. Like I said, you can work as much as you want or as little as you want. So obviously, the more you work, the more money you're gonna make.
Do you work for just one firm?
Yes, I work for one firm, however, we have lots of attorneys that call this one firm.
Because I know when I originally thought about court reporting and they talked about freelancing and you working for a firm, the only experience I had was like with temp work, and with temp work, you sign up with a number of firms because it's not guaranteed
Right.
that any one firm is gonna call you on any one day. So
Right.
to ensure that you have the best opportunity to work,
Yes.
you registered with more than one firm.
Yes.
And I was wondering, how does that, because of the nature of the work and confidentiality and things like that, I was wondering